The beautiful Sandia Mountains here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. What a beautiful, beautiful ballpark and a great state, the land of enchantment. That's where the Rangers are, starting the final paces of spring training 2005. They play the Diamondbacks today. We are just about ready for when these things count for real. Along with Tom Grieve, I'm Josh Lewin. Welcome to Albuquerque, and the Rangers still have some decisions to make. Tom, this is, I guess, a time of year where some people get a little bit nervous.
I would say there's a few nervous people down there in the clubhouse. The position players seem pretty well set. The rotation seems pretty well set, but the bullpen is a little bit in flux right now. Still some injury questions. A lot of guys still here in camp, and I think those are the nervous guys, the guys in the bullpen right now.
We'll talk to John Daniels, Rangers assistant GM, a little bit later today. We've got some of the players mic'd up for you, coaches mic'd up for you. We'll have a good old time here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Sit back and enjoy. Chris Young will be on the mound against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Check it out from Isotopes Stadium next. Texas Ranger Baseball on FSN Southwest, brought to you by Dodge. Bigger in Texas, better in a Dodge. And by Albuquerque Baseball. That is hands down the best minor league logo I've ever seen. The Isotopes of Albuquerque. They named them after, well, it's a long story. We'll get to it a little bit later in the broadcast. It goes back to an episode of The Simpsons, of all things, Tom. So for all those folks that don't like it when we talk pop culture, sorry. Today we're going to have to tell the story about how the Isotopes relocated from Springfield, the fictional home of one Homer J. Simpson. Now, the Rangers are 12-18 in spring training, Tom. Does that mean anything? I mean, if they were 18-12, would that get you going more? Or?
Well, I think you'd rather be 18-12 than 12-18. But to answer your first question, no, it doesn't. I don't think it makes a bit of difference. The team, the lineup is healthy right now. They're scoring runs. They're swinging the bats. The rotation is set. Still some questions in the bullpen. But I think with 2 spring training games left heading into the season, the team is pretty much right where it wants to be right now. And I think you look past the record at 12-18.
You can see that it's a crowded dugout. There are some decisions still to be made, and they are introducing everybody who is here with the team to a crowd of what will probably be about 10,000 here this afternoon. Josh Frazier, the video coach, gets his moment in the sun. Steve Smith, we won't go through all of them, but it's nice. These guys have had a good time here in Albuquerque. A lot of these guys have played in Albuquerque. For years, this was a AAA home of the LA Dodgers. Orel Hershiser starred here for a couple of seasons. And now that they are hooked up with the Florida Marlins, some of the guys like Adrian Gonzalez, Chad Allen, they have been on this Albuquerque Isotopes team that plays here. There's their mascot, Orbit. And I don't know about you, Tag, but this is about as good as it gets for a minor league facility. If you've been to Frisco, I would say Frisco, and in this facility here, it got to be in the top 5 nationally.
Yeah, all the new ballparks are beautiful. You can go to Frisco, Oklahoma City, Round Rock. All the new stadiums are beautiful. I don't know if I've ever seen one nicer than this, though. The playing surface is great. The stands are great. And it's pretty tough to top the snow-capped mountains out in center field. This is really it's a major league ballpark that seats 10,000 people. That's pretty much what it is.
The old Albuquerque Dukes started playing here in 1965. They were originally the old DFW AAA team that played at Old Turnpike Stadium. When that team left, this is where they landed. And a great minor league impresario by the name of Pat McKernan for years headed up an Albuquerque Dukes franchise that was one of the best in AAA. They played at an old stadium that was right here on these very grounds, and I believe, Tom, you had the pleasure of playing at the old stadium here.
I did play in the old stadium, and I've asked some people here where the old stadium used to be, and I was told it's exactly where this one was. And my recollection of the old field was a big mountain in left field. They call it was a lava rock, evidently, and that was knocked down to make room for the nice building, part of the university out in left field, and was knocked down when they built the new stadium. But this is exactly where the old stadium used to be. Great ballpark to hit in. We're just about a mile high. The ball carries great in this ballpark, and for a big league game, I would say you would want to probably bet that you're going to see 7 or 8 runs for each team today.
Yesterday, the Rangers had 10 in the 4th inning alone. The ball indeed was jumping. The Rangers beat the Rockies by the score of 11-7. And today, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the post-big unit era of the Diamondbacks, they've had kind of an extreme makeover Southwest edition going for them here. new and improved, at least. They've got these 340 home run hitters in their lineup now with Gonzalez, Green, and Gloss, the killer G's, if you will. They've got a new manager, too, in Bob Melvin.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job of revamping their team. I mean, they were a lousy team last year, and now when you look at their lineup with Gonzalez, Gloss, Green, Cruz, that's a pretty good lineup. They're breaking in some younger players. Both catchers are young. They've got a veteran guy, Royce Clayton, playing shortstop. Bob Melvin, who managed Seattle last year, is the new Diamondbacks manager. I like the things they've done in the offseason. I think they're going to be a greatly improved ball club.
And, of course, the guy who was the architect for the Diamondbacks in their very first incarnation is now the Rangers manager. That is Mr. Showalter. He was brought in a full 2 years before the Diamondbacks ever took the field and really helped build this organization from scratch. So it's always odd when Buck has to face the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, when you look at how quickly Arizona went to the top as an expansion team, that's a real credit to their organization. And at that point in time, Buck was the point man. It's a great credit to Buck and the way they went about building their expansion team. Generally, you shoot for 6 or 8 years down the road. They didn't do that. They shot for getting there as quickly as they could, and they got there in a hurry with a championship team.
Last year, they were at the bottom of the National League, though, in batting average, at the bottom in home runs. They were near the bottom in the steals. Very simply, they could not generate runs, no matter how they tried to do it. Being dead last in fielding and 14th in pitching didn't help. They plummeted pretty good. They went 51 and 111 last year. In fact, they lost 97 of their last 136. So going 39 and 97 down the stretch, they knew they had to do some pretty serious stuff to turn this thing around.
Well, they did. And, you know, it's hard to say you get rid of Randy Johnson and you have a better team, but they turned Randy Johnson into a different team. It gave them some financial flexibility. They added Sean Green, who's an outstanding player, defensively and offensively, to play right field. Have brought in Jose Cruz to play center field. You've talked about the big power hitters that they've added. They've got a better ball club.
We will see the Diamondbacks and Rangers straight ahead from Albuquerque. Stay with us here on FSN Southwest. Rangers and the Diamondbacks getting set from Albuquerque, New Mexico. You see that New Mexico State flag out there? One of the best ones out there, I gotta say. My own humble opinion. Nothing beats the Lone Star flag, but that blazing sun on the yellow backdrop, that's pretty nice. And as you said, Tom, those snow-capped mountains, that is a gorgeous backdrop for a baseball game. And the Rangers here in New Mexico for 2 games. They played against the Rockies yesterday. Now they get the Diamondbacks today. And from the land of enchantment, it is time to play ball.
All right, let's do it.
We were ready about 13 minutes ago, actually, but they took their time introducing those players out there and had the 4-minute version of the anthem. So here we go. We are set to meet and greet the starting lineups. First for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now the D-backs are 17 and 15 this spring. And they just got done playing against the Boston Red Sox. How about that? Curt Schilling going back to Arizona. That was supposed to be the whole key to arranging that series, but Curt Schilling's on the DL. So that never really materialized. But the Diamondbacks will have Sean Estes on the mound today. And he's facing a Ranger lineup that we'll detail in just a little bit. First, the Brookshire's starting lineup for Arizona. And the guy we've been talking about, Troy Gloss. You and I, Tom, I think know all too much what Troy Gloss can do. He's done it to the Rangers for years with the Angels, but now he hops over here to Arizona.
Well, you look at what he's done in spring training. I mean, he's been incredible. He's hitting .421. He's knocked in 30 runs in 57 plate appearances.
He's the guy that single-handedly ended the Rangers' magic carpet ride last year. The only home run Cordero allowed all season was that 10th inning center field shot by Gloss. And it kind of put the final nail in the coffin that last week of the season. So good news is this is the only time the Rangers have to see Troy Gloss in the April, May, June, etc. this season. Chris Young will be on the mound, by the way, for the Rangers. And this, I guess, was supposed to be a big start for him, Tom, as you looked a couple weeks ago towards the April 2nd game, Texas versus Arizona. You figured if that's a Chris Young game, That's going to be a big start for Chris Young, but as it turns out, he's already cemented his spot in the rotation.
Well, he earned it. You know, he went to spring training with nothing guaranteed. I mean, he signed a contract, but he wasn't guaranteed a spot in the rotation. He had to go there and win it. And there's a lot of pressure on a young pitcher when you have to go out and do that. Ricardo Rodriguez talked about that pressure, not knowing if you're going to make the team. But that's what it's all about for some guys in spring training. And you have to step up to the plate. Chris met the challenge. He earned the spot in the rotation. And they gave it to him. They didn't give it to him. He earned it.
Young will start the third game of the season against the Angels. Orel Hershiser very happy to see that indeed young Chris Young has come along as quickly as he has. Orel Hershiser, one of the many former Albuquerque players, got a rousing ovation when he was introduced here yesterday. John Wetland just went out there, caught a ceremonial first pitch, and he could probably run for mayor of Albuquerque, could John Wetland.
John might have just blown his back out trying to field that first pitch, too.
John Wetland swears by this part of the country. He lived here 14 years, still has about 30 acres up in the Sandia Mountains, about a 25-minute drive from here, he says. You think about some of the players that have come through Albuquerque, Tom. I mean, from John Wetland to Orel Hershiser, to Mike Piazza, to all those, and basically all the Dodgers that played in the 80s.
All the great Dodger players. I mean, the last minor league season that I played in Albuquerque, Mike Scioscia was the catcher. Mickey Hatcher played third base. Jack Perconte. Before that, it was Mike Marshall, big Dodger first baseman who had played here. Yeah, they sent some really good players through here over the years.
The way the ball jumps, you talked about it being about a mile high here. There was always a little bit of a stigma associated with big numbers produced from Albuquerque. I remember a guy named Billy Ashley put up huge numbers for the Dodgers at AAA and then could never quite make the jump to the majors. And I think he kind of became the poster child for Albuquerque baseball. The big numbers here don't always translate up there.
No, it's the same in a lot of ballparks like this. Chris Young's numbers in spring training, very good numbers. Very easy to hit the ball in spring training in the Cactus League. To have an ERA under 4 is impressive. One-loss record doesn't mean much. It's that ERA that's pretty nice. And Chris earned a spot in the rotation. But Colorado Springs is Colorado's AAA team. That's a great place to hit. What it does, it puts a lot of pressure on the scouting department when you scout your players in a hitter's ballpark. You have to give the pitchers a break as far as ERA, hits given up, home runs given up, and you have to really judge their stuff without looking so much at their stats. And the same with a hitter. You got to just break down their swing, break down their fundamentals, and grade them. Maybe look at what they hit on the road a little bit more than what they hit at home.
Let's check out the Ranger defense that will support Chris Young today. Mike Young gets the afternoon off. He'll be a DH for the Rangers today, but will not be playing in the field. That'll be Mark DeRosa running out there at short. Mensch, Matthews, and Hidalgo in the outfield. No Lance Nix today against a left-hand starter, Sean Estes, on the mound for Arizona.
First pitch, 118.
Craig Counsell is the batter for Arizona. If you've followed Major League Baseball the last few years, all you'd need to see is this guy in silhouette, and you'd know that's who's batting. That is one of the stranger stances in Major League Baseball. He grounds out to Teixeira here.
Well, the good fastball by Chris right there almost looked like a cutter. Looked like it might have come in on his fist 2 or 3 inches, and you can get that kind of movement on your fastball. That's pretty impressive thing to have. That's what Mariano Rivera has done for so many years. That added movement is something the hitter has to contend with.
Ranger fans will remember this guy, Royce Clayton. Ranger shortstop for 2.5 seasons. And he says, don't even ask about the hair. He ain't cutting it. He likes it that way.
If Johnny Damon can keep it, so can Royce. That looks better than Johnny Damon.
Chris Young, meantime, has always had kind of that short summer in Texas, almost a crew cut thing going on. And it will be 1 year tomorrow, Tag, that trade was consummated, getting Chris Young, stealing Chris Young from Montreal.
Well, that's exactly the word I would use, too. talking about the first pitch that got Counsell out being a cutter. Chris is working on a slider, and that last pitch looked more like a slider than a cutter. Good changeup right there. If Chris can perfect that slider to go with his fastball, curveball, and changeup, that'll give him 4 quality pitches. The more things the hitter has to think about, the tougher it is to hit.
Think of the number of IQ points when Orel Hershiser takes young Chris Young aside and they just start talking. Chris Young from Princeton University by way of Highland Park High School. Clayton belts one in the center. Well, Chris Young's still certainly young enough to be considered a prospect, or Albertson's prospect spotlight here.
I think if you look at those points, Josh, we talked about the 4 pitches. He's working on his slider. At 6'10", when he comes over the top, that creates a tough angle for the hitter. You don't see that angle very often because there's not many pitchers who are 6'10". The other thing that I think impresses people about Chris is his poise on the mound for an inexperienced big league pitcher. He's very confident. He looks relaxed, but he's got an intensity about him just as well.
He is facing another guy that you probably would know if you just walked into a silhouette by stance. That is the man Curt Schilling once called the male Mother Teresa, Luis Gonzalez. For those claiming a dearth of nice guys in modern big league baseball, they can always look towards Luis Gonzalez. Oh, man, that is an open stance, isn't it?
Tony Batista had a stance a little bit similar to that. I think the theory behind that is you open up your stance like that to get a better look at the pitcher. And then as you get in position to hit, he'll bring that right leg toward home plate to be more in the hitter's position. Right now, he likes the look that it gives him to see the pitch, and then he brings it back into a hitting position.
What's funny is the Diamondbacks' interest originally was not in acquiring Luis Gonzalez for their outfield. They wanted Bobby Higginson from Detroit. They settled for Luis Gonzalez, but what a settling that was. Tiger said, we want to keep Higginson. We're about to sign Greg Jeffries. It's going to push aside Luis Gonzalez, so we're not going to deal you Higginson, but maybe we can do something for Gonzalez. Gonzalez for Kareem Garcia. Belted into center. Matthews had it go behind him. Tried to make that running backhand catch, kind of an awkward position for that baseball, about shin high. And it skipped by him. It's going to be scored an error on Gary Matthews Jr.
It was a well-hit ball. The thing you can't tell from here, sometimes when the ball is hit solidly like that, it doesn't spin. It also almost has the effect of being a knuckleball as it comes to the outfielder. There's a breaking ball away. Gonzalez goes with it. Gary gets to the ball. Looks like a pretty easy catch, but then it goes down underneath his glove. Who could be surprised if that's what happened to him?
So second and third, one out. And the danger is Troy Gloss. That's one of the other quirks here in the Quirk, Albuquerque. This new ballpark they've got. They've got that slope in center field. Reminds you of what they've got in Houston. Gloss going to left center instead of straight away center, and he will find the bullpen.
Well, Gloss is going to want to get benched so he saves some of these RBIs for the rest of the season. 33 RBIs and 58 at-bats.
Well, the last two swings Gloss has had against the Rangers now have been pretty impressive home runs. So one to end their 2004 season last year, and this one here against Chris Young in spring training.
Chris got the ball in, but probably not as far in as he wanted to get it. It's on the inside half of the plate. He might have wanted that maybe 4 to 6 inches farther in. Gloss turned on it pretty well.
Yeah, 33 runs batted in is a pretty decent spring training.
That's unbelievable.
Well, the third of the 3 Gs that scare you in this lineup, after Gonzalez and Gloss, it is now Sean Green. You might remember Green broke in with the Blue Jays and then played several years for the Dodgers.
There's where he's trying to get the ball. A little bit off the plate, right on the inside corner. Caught Green looking.
And the first strikeout for Mr. Young. Oh, and these veteran hitters just keep coming for Arizona, Tom. Jose Cruz Jr. now.
Cruz is having a great spring, hitting close to 400. A few home runs, 11 RBIs. Could be a good addition to their ball club. It's a little bit streaky as a hitter. He can go through some bad spells, but he can also go through some hot spells where he hits the ball out of the ballpark. He's a solid outfielder. Throws well, runs well. Good solid ball player.
Well, you're right about the streakiness, too. He had that 0 for 32 at one point last year for Tampa Bay, but because it was at the exact same time Derek Jeter had his 0 for 32, everybody paid attention to Jeter doing that, and nobody really noticed that Cruz had that happen to him. Now, Tom, you were talking about Chris Young at 6'10". His battery mate, Mr. Alomar, goes about 6'5.5".
That's got to be the all-time record. Total height of the pitcher and the catcher.
Well, Young continues to struggle a bit here in the first inning, running the count to 3-1 on a very dangerous hitter, Mr. Cruz. And the walk. You'll notice the bat boy for Arizona, at least for this first inning, is Sergio Santos. He's one of their minor leaguers, Tom. We've been told that he was late to the ballpark today, so his penance is he's got to be the bat boy for the first inning.
I like that. It's better than being the bat boy in a minor league game.
Think Mr. Santos will ever be late for a game again?
Well, he's probably thinking, hey, I got the best seat in the house at a big league ballpark.
And as of now, I'm still on the team.
That's a very interesting punishment. I've never heard of that one before.
Again, Bob Melvin taking over as manager of this Arizona team.
So is Santiago. Maybe they will. Maybe they will, huh? Maybe they will. We saw this happen.
Remember, Bob Melvin got this gig when the Diamondbacks had already hired Wally Backman, and then sheepishly found out Backman was having some legal issues. And they fired him 2 days after hiring him. Tracy to left field, and that'll do it. But 3 runs in the inning on a Troy Gloss home run to left center field. Rangers coming up when we come back to Albuquerque. Three-run home run in the top of the first inning by Troy Gloss as the Arizona Diamondbacks out on top today here at Isotopes Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is a beautiful 75-degree afternoon here in New Mexico today. The Ranger lineup brought to you by Brookshire's. It features Alfonso Soriano at the top of the order, then Hank Blaylock behind him. Michael Young DHs, Mark Teixeira, Richard Hidalgo, Mensch, Matthews, Alomar, and DeRosa. Against the left-hander Sean Estes.
Estes is 31 years old, veteran guy, excellent curveball, probably known for his curveball.
That ball whacked into left field by Soriano.
One of those guys that pitched in Colorado, had a high ERA last year. He was .584 with his ERA, but he was 15-8 on the mound, which shows he competed well in that ballpark. The goal is to outpitch the other pitcher and not worry about your ERA. Not a real good ERA or record for him this spring, but he's a veteran guy and just trying to get it in shape for the season.
Hank Blaylock hitting .317 this spring. And we did not see Hank play in that other exhibition game that was broadcast, Tom. That's a fair ball. One out there. They'll get Soriano going in a second. That's a double play.
Oh, nice throw from Tracy. Had to throw it 90 feet with a runner in the way. And he threw a strike and got Soriano.
And the point we were going to make about Hank is that he has been solid, both at the plate and in the field here in the spring, but that is a neatly turned double play by Tracy. You're right. I guess we got to step it up from solid to describe Mike Young. .438 is the third best batting average in spring training baseball right now. You'll never guess who's number one. To give you a hint, he's the leadoff man for the Seattle Mariners. It's pretty good
set
hint.
the all-time hit record for the Cactus League.
Ichiro is out of the gate just like you figured he would be, hitting .450.
There's a lot of different ways to look at spring training performance. I've always felt as a player I wanted to have a solid spring training. You want the team to feel confident about your ability, and if you're trying to make the team, you obviously want to play well enough to make the team. But not that I ever had the talent to have a spring like Gloss's spring, but you almost start to feel if you put up those numbers in spring training, 33 RBIs and 58 at-bats, the law of averages says you can't stay that hot in the month of April.
Well, look at Gerald Laird on the Rangers last year. He made the team because he hit 8 home runs during spring training. Then he went until late September before hitting his first one as a Ranger. When it counted, of course, he was hurt for about 3 months too. But yeah, you can leave some of those big numbers behind sometimes.
It's on. Andrew Jones has 9 or 10 home runs in Florida. So
that ball takes off. It's going to get up on the hill. Michael Young blasting away.
That ball just ate him up. Jose Cruz in center field, and it's not necessarily his fault. When you haven't played at this altitude, you're not used to the ball taking off and carrying like that. In a normal ballpark, that's a line drive, might take a step back, but it's pretty much right at him in center field. But in this ballpark, it takes off almost like a tee shot, just kind of keeps rising. And right now, he's sure he's got this ball. Right now, he's not so sure.
I just whistled by him like a bottle rocket out there.
I mean, that's almost 400 feet, probably 380 feet.
I'll see if Mark Teixeira can find that slope. In center field, Tex just 1 home run in spring training. Remember last spring training, he was battling a couple of injuries and never really got going completely in the regular season until really about Memorial Day. But once he got going, he was unbelievable. Tex ended up 5th in the American League with 38 home runs. He was 6th in slugging percentage. He was 7th in RBI. And yeah, he spent, 3 or 4 weeks on the DL. .38 home runs, the most ever by a Ranger first baseman. In the few years Rafael Palmeiro had more than 38 as a Ranger, he would do some of that damage as a DH.
Good changeup. The berm hasn't caught on here quite like it has in Surprise, Arizona. Good location with it, tailing down and away. Got a great berm out in right field to watch the ball game at.
Can picnic out there like in Surprise. course, here at the old ballpark in Albuquerque, Tom, out in left field, you'd be able to pull your car right up like it was a drive-in, right?
That's right. That's right. They park in that front row. You have to watch out for the balls that hit up there, especially in batting practice. That's where it used to be. It's now the picnic pavilion. Still taking a lot of work to get rid of that lava rock that was out there.
That one just missed.
Huge scoreboard for a minor league ballpark.
Yeah, it's tough not to notice that. It's actually double scoreboards out there. They've got one that's a video board and one that actually keeps the score for you. No, they've done a great job here. The Rangers AAA team christened this ballpark. The first ever game that was played here was Albuquerque against Oklahoma. They've got a framed lineup card, Bobby Jones's lineup card here in their lobby.
If I remember right, last year, the 89ers put up a lot of runs in this ballpark. It wasn't last year, it was the year before. They had games in the 20s here, which is not necessarily that rare.
Estes struggling with his command here. He's 2-0 on Hidalgo.
Well, one thing they say, and I'm not a physicist, but they say that the curveball doesn't curve as much at high levels. That's one of the things pitchers complain about in Denver, and this is almost as high as Denver. Estes is accustomed to pitching in Colorado.
As you said, Tom, he managed to win 15 games as a Rocky last year.
I mean, it's a bad situation for a pitcher. If you've got a good curveball and it's not working well because of the altitude and you're forced to throw just your fastball in a great hitter's ballpark, pretty tough for the pitcher. Pretty good situation for the hitter.
Fans clap their appreciation for the young catcher Coy Hill, who almost came up with that foul pop. Last thing Bob Melvin needs right now is one of his two catchers going down to an injury 2 days before opening day. Well, the new Ranger right fielder, Mr. Hidalgo, has had a very strong spring. .289 batting average, leads the team with 4 home runs. Buck Showalter's been very happy with not only the on-field happenings from Richard Hidalgo, but his approach off the field. Hard worker. Seems to have really taken well to Rudy Jaramillo's coaching. That's one thing Hidalgo has said he hasn't had since being in the minor leagues with the Astros, Tom. It is a bilingual hitting coach that he can really just kind of hang out with and talk shop.
I would think that would be a big deal for a Latin player to have someone like Rudy. Such an asset for any team.
With the runners going, Hidalgo a swing and a miss. So Estes in and out of trouble here in the bottom of the first. The Rangers do not score. Chris Young back out there on the mound, gave up a 3-run home run to Troy Gloss in the top of the first inning, and now here in the second, it is our pleasure to welcome to the booth the Rangers Assistant General Manager, John Daniels. JD was kind enough to join us in Surprise as well. How are you enjoying your Albuquerque experience?
This place is beautiful.
It is.
How about the backdrop with the mountains? Pretty special.
It's odd with the, snow-capped mountains. It's like 75, 77 degrees today.
I know it. You know, Josh, we missed you in the weight room this morning. I did see Tom in there getting after it.
Oh, that's a pretty good dig right there.
Hey, with these guns, I don't need any no weight room. All right, let's talk about getting down to business here. It's April 2nd, opening day, actually opening night in Anaheim is April 5th. How close are we to making the final cuts here?
We're pretty close. We're down to just a couple key decisions in the bullpen, and we'll wait till after the game to make any final decisions.
Today is the day you have to make that decision, though. Is that right?
Yeah, MLB has a requirement. You have to get your roster down to 25 by midnight tonight.
By midnight tonight.
Opening day for most teams is Monday. Tony Clark way out in front right there.
Is one of the things you have to sift through the health of some of the guys out in the bullpen?
Yeah, that's part of it. Probably going to open with a few guys on the DL, and it depends on the replacements. The other factor is with Pedro Estacio likely to open on the DL, but to be ready to make his first start, we'll actually have the benefit of having an extra pitcher in the bullpen for a few days, and just the dynamic of what mix the staff wants to go with.
So you'll have 8 guys in the bullpen until Estacio pitches, and then one of those guys will have to go?
That's the most likely scenario, right?
In terms of the starting rotation, JD, do you feel like things have sorted themselves out pretty well? There were a lot of questions coming in down towards the back of that rotation.
Yeah, I think the veterans, for the most part, pitched well. The biggest part is staying healthy, and with the exception of a slight groin tweak with Pedro, we're good to go there, and really he doesn't even need to miss a start. He's going to make his first start scheduled on Saturday if all goes well. So, I think Chris pitched well.
Boy, Tony, sorry to interrupt you there, JD. Tony Clark hits one almost out to center field, up on the slope. And that is a double. And again, we've been marveling, JD, at how the ball just absolutely jumps at this facility.
Yeah, we had to increase our batting practice ball budget because we lost so many the last 2 days.
That's a fairly big hill and a fairly steep hill in center field. Until you've had the chance to navigate that a couple of times, that's not an easy thing to do.
It's beautiful to look at, but I'm sure as first player that sprains an ankle on that thing, the team's not too happy about it.
First pitcher that loses a ball game because an outfielder falls on it. But it's the same for both teams, I guess. And if it's your home field and you work on it, maybe your center fielder has an advantage over the other teams.
You remember that play Carlos Beltran made in the playoffs running up on the hills?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
A hill of a different sort. This is Coy Hill up at the plate for Arizona. He's come up through their minor league system. And while we're on the subject, Mr. Daniels, let's talk about the Rangers minor league system. Did you guys feel like it's in a good spot right now?
Yeah, it really is. We've got a lot of players that are going to be moved aggressively through the system next couple of years. And, if you get a chance, I think it would be pretty interesting if you're up in Iowa this year to stop by and see Clinton, because that rotation could really have some of the future Ranger starters. You've got Eric Hurley, Kyle Rogers, Michael Schlacht, and a few others, and all down throughout the system. We're starting to load up an impressive starting pitching, and hopefully it trickles up here.
Mark it down, Tag. When the Rangers play in Chicago, we're going to rent a car. We're going to drive the 5 hours to Clinton, Iowa.
I think I've made that trip before when Ben was playing in the Midwest League, as a matter of fact. Only about 3 o'clock in the morning. What about Danks and Diamond? Where will they end up?
They're both going to start in Bakersfield in that rotation. So you really
get off to a good start halfway through the year, maybe consider Double-A.
Yeah, it might be sooner than that. It might be later than that. I mean, we're not going to put a timetable on it, but yeah, really every rotation throughout the system is going to be pretty interesting.
What about Joaquin Arias? Where does he look like he'll start?
Joaquin, our fans back home are going to get a chance to see him in Frisco.
Great.
So drive right up the road.
How old is he? 21?
He is 20.
20.
He's 20.
It's a tough league for a 20-year-old. How many 20-year-olds go 8 for 9 or whatever he was in spring training either?
That's upstairs to Hill. Yeah, he set the bar pretty high, hitting 889.
I guess that's evidence that we don't make our decisions based on spring training statistics.
Well, that Frisco team, obviously they're so successful in terms of how they draw. They've got great management off the field, excellent management on the field. And with Oklahoma being so close, here's a terrific pitch from Young to Freeze Hill for the first out of the inning. You guys, towards the top of the minor league organization, you must be thrilled with Oklahoma City and Frisco, how that's going.
You can't get a better combination than those two. And you mentioned Frisco, what a major league situation it is. And we've got to rehab a guy there or drive up the road. We really don't lose anything. And their staff, their ballpark, it's all been first class.
Oh, is this how you used to hold the bat?
There's a reason I'm sitting up on this side of the playing field.
In other words, you tried a lot of different ways to hold the bat.
That's right. I just didn't want it to get knocked out of my hand.
Now, he's got the hands way, way up there, kind of like Julio Franco. But that is not the 9-pound bat that Julio Franco uses. Again, we're chatting with John Daniels, the assistant general manager for these Texas Rangers. You know, it's funny. I think a lot of people outside of baseball, John, they look at the offseason and they figure, hey, great, 5 months off. You know, there's no games going on, so what, do you go to Europe? Do you go to Bimini? But that's kind of the busy time for you, right?
Yeah, there really isn't an off season, and that's both the toughest part and the best part of the job.
Little flare, center field, Matthews coming on! Great catch. Well, you had that one from Gonzalez, knuckleball by him in the first inning. This time, he made sure that he would lock it up.
Yeah, he wasn't going to let that one drop. Ball hit right off the end of the bat. Sometimes it's hard to get a good jump on a ball hit like that. But he closes on it, dives for it, and makes a nice play.
Former Ranger Royce Clayton, the guy that Chris Young used to watch when he would come to ball games as a kid.
That was a slider that Chris has been working on, and if he can throw the ball like that, that slider might end up being a better pitch for him than his curveball. That was an excellent pitch.
That's a lot of the discussion the staff's been having. John talking with Mark and Oral about it. It's really come on.
Was that one of the goals for him in spring training, is to develop this into a big league pitch? There's another look at it.
You know, they worked on it with him all off season while he was working out at the ballpark. After he got married, he was there every day, and it actually was in his repertoire. It's become more of a focus pitch since he developed that blister, and it was almost a blessing in disguise because it's forced him to go to it more, and it might end up being his best breaking ball.
Great.
Just missed the outside corner with that.
One of the worries toward the end of spring training was whether Francisco Cordero was going to be ready to be the closer. With a couple innings he pitched the other day, you must feel pretty comfortable about his role on the team right now. Is that right?
Absolutely. There's a big sigh of relief throughout the clubhouse. We had a good feeling about him. You know, he basically just had a slight sore shoulder at the beginning of camp, and we thought he would be ready, but he's shown us everything we needed to see, both velocity, breaking ball, command. He said he feels great, and
good.
No, knock on wood, no issues there.
Good.
You know, the innings that saw the lowest total of runs allowed last year were in order: the 9th, the 8th, and the 7th. Well, when's the last time you could say that about a Rangers ball club? That bullpen was just lights out. Clayton strikes out. Chris Young strands a man. We'll be back with John Daniels momentarily, talking about the Rangers minor league system a little more. Chris Young walks off the mound down 3-0. Troy Gloss hit a 3-run home run in the top of the first inning. The Diamondbacks lead the Rangers today in the bottom of inning 2. We'll see Mensch and Matthews and Alomar batting here in this bottom of the second inning.
Second base, number 11.
And already some defensive changes to tell you about. Matt Cata is into the game playing second. Alex Centron is into the game playing short.
At second base.
And we've got John Daniels in the booth, Rangers assistant GM. And just kind of gazing out there, I don't think the Rangers have changed the batting order yet, have they?
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
What are you guys looking to see? I mean, the last few days of spring training, what's a good balance in terms of how much you want to see from these guys just to make sure they're getting their at-bats in, but they don't run the risk of getting injured?
Well, I think the biggest thing is making sure they stay healthy. And Buck wants to keep these guys fresh, ready to go. I think our guys have been ready to break camp here for a few days and get out on the road, but they need to stay fresh and get at bats, and that's why Buck's in the dugout. He's going to put that together.
Of course, Buck Showalter, the 2004 American League Manager of the Year.
Matt Kata is batting in
the 10-year anniversary
for Arizona
of when he won that Manager of the Year award with the New York Yankees.
For Arizona.
Seems like there's some pretty good synergy, too, JD, between the front office and that manager's office. And that's not always something in every organization, I think, that you can say.
Yeah, we've got a great relationship that starts at the top with Mr. Hicks, but really, John and Buck have a tremendous relationship, and on down the line, I talk to Don Wakamatsu and these guys every day, the needs they have, things we need to see, vice versa, and it's really worked out well. It's been a major benefit, especially at the end of last year where we were juggling, making moves. We were all on the same page, and it was a huge asset.
Mensch pops one up. We'll see if Coy Hill gives it another dive. Not this time. One of the guys that Buck now has at his disposal, thanks to a trade you guys pulled off very recently, Matt Riley. And I want to ask you about him. What are you guys looking for in terms of major league production for Matt Riley right away?
Well, right away, I think we're going to look to start him in the bullpen, assuming everything goes okay. But down the line, I think we look at him as a starter. Here's a guy who was a third-round pick, got what at the time was a record-setting bonus for a junior college player.
Tracy couldn't make the pickup at first base. His gloss threw it low, and Kevin Mensch able to reach here.
And Matt was so dominant in the minor leagues early in his career that the Orioles actually called him up his second season at the age of 20 to pitch in the big leagues. He's been their top prospect quite a bit, and we just like the stuff. We like his body. I think he's excited to be over here for a fresh start, and we're excited to have him.
I guess fresh start is probably what he was looking for, too. There were some questions, I guess, earlier in his career more than later about his level of maturity. Do you guys sense that he knows that that's something he needs to address, and has he addressed it?
What was great about him is he did not take any shots at Baltimore. He was appreciative of what they gave him there, and he was very mature coming over here. I kind of laugh, how many of us, if we were called up to the big leagues at age 19 or 20, wouldn't there be maturity questions with?
Right.
So you got to kind of take it in context with that label. He's been great with what we've seen here. We're aware of what the supposed reputation is, and we're just happy to have him as the talent's on the mound.
After the straight steal of second for Mensch, here is Matthews.
I guess another question on Riley would be, he wasn't having a great spring. Was he healthy?
That's a question that we're going to address. So far, so good. We're going to hopefully see him here in a little while today, and he'll tell us.
Good.
But he actually had a few more innings in the minor leagues with them than he did in the big leagues, and he just wasn't in their plan. So I don't think he pitched as many innings. That is a good question, though, Tom, and we'll see that here today.
I think anytime you've got a chance to acquire a kid with that kind of upside potential, left-handed, for a player that probably only figured in the Ranger plans in an emergency, that's a pretty safe bet to make.
Well, that's how we looked at it. It was a high upside, high reward, low risk acquisition, and we'll do that every day.
No kidding.
Well, essentially, the Rangers did that with Carl Everett, and ended up turning Carl Everett into Frankie Francisco. So sometimes that high risk, high reward stuff works out okay.
No doubt.
Chop ball past the mound. That is Cintron now in the game at short. Let me ask you about Frankie Francisco, John. What do we hear about his coming along and being ready to help his team?
We got a positive report from our guys in Arizona this morning. He has been throwing off a mound. He's going to continue to do so at the appropriate time. We'll get him out on a rehab assignment, and the answers aren't all there yet. It's still somewhat of a wait and see, but as far as we can tell right now, he's doing okay. He's feeling better, and right over us. He's feeling better, and we'll take it outing by outing. But again, this morning we did get a positive report back from Dom Sheedy and the other guys that are still back in Arizona, and that's all we could ask for.
The veteran acquisition, Sandy Alomar Jr., up the plate for the Rangers now. Ball squirting away. Minch has got to jam on the brakes. Did I see you wince? I know you don't want to see a home plate collision 2 days before the season starts, right?
Absolutely.
Good job.
I've only seen about 4 or 5 spring training games, but Kevin has been involved in some exciting base running plays in at least 3 of those games, and he almost made it 4. Thank goodness he did put on the brakes.
I'm not sure if Kevin's coming down the line. I'm not sure if I'd want to be in Coy Hill's position either.
John, we were talking a little bit last half inning about what's down on the farm, and we mentioned some of the higher end guys like Danks and Diamond that a lot of Ranger fans know. That'll get the run in, ground ball to short, and it's now a 3-1 game. Who else that we might not think of off the top of our heads? Who's impressed you in terms of minor league guys that we might actually have a chance to see at some point in 05?
Well, I was about to say John Bannister, but he was an undrafted player a couple of years ago, right-handed pitcher, a high school guy that somehow made it through and a great job of scouting in Arizona. But you probably will not see him here.
Not 05.
This year.
Yeah.
No, that would be a little bit of a stretch.
An undrafted high school player. That's unusual.
Pretty unusual. Our scout at the time, I believe it was Jim Lentine, just did a great job in that area and knew the player, knew the family, and the guy changed his mind, decided not to go to school, came back to him and said,
so he wasn't
like
drafted because of signability?
That was part of it, I think. But I think also it was our guy knew him better than the other scouts.
There's a bullet by Mark DeRosa. That's a great sign. He's now 4 for his last 9, which I know doesn't sound like a big streak or anything, but there was some concern about Mark DeRosa just being able to swing the bat well enough to make this team and help this team. Looks like that's kind of been buried now. It looks like he's on this team the way he's been coming along the last week or so.
Mark came into camp, and people forget that he blew out his knee in September. He tore his ACL, and so he is well ahead of schedule on a normal rehab timing. And early on, he was just kind of getting going, making sure he didn't hurt the knee, and lately he's turned it on, and it showed.
Of course, when you guys ran Ian Kinsler out there, he did nothing but impress. That's got to be, I'm just assuming, John, that's got to be one of the tougher decisions you guys are faced with. Ian Kinsler, great kid, great spring, but do you have room for him on the team?
Well, the question becomes what's best for not only the Rangers, but for Ian's development. And are we better served, is he better served in a utility role at this age versus playing every day and being ready to go when we need him in that role? That's something that hasn't been 100% locked in stone, but again, I think the key point is we're not looking to hamper his development and shortchange him at all.
Yet he's had a good enough spring that if God forbid something happened to a Soriano or a Young or something in the next couple of days, you would probably have no issues plugging him right in.
Yeah, he would be one of the guys we would call on pretty quickly. I think you look back and there aren't too many 17th round draft picks you can say that about within 2 years of being signed.
Probably the best ever 17th round pick was Mr. Hershiser. He did okay.
Not bad, not bad.
If you went back and looked at Kinsler's scouting report coming out of college, where has he shown the improvement to be where he is so quickly?
Certainly at the plate. I think Mike Grouse and the guys at the time really liked his makeup. Mm-hmm. They liked his work ethic. They liked his defense, and kind of questioned whether the bat was going to come. He didn't put up monster numbers at Missouri. He actually went to ASU and lost the job there and had to transfer. And so no doubt about it, his biggest improvement by far has come at the plate. And he's a baseball player, as John would say, and our guys love him. He's worked his butt off, and we're hopeful he's in our plans for the future.
The Tom Grieve Minor League Player of the Year for the year 2004. Let's check out some Reliant power numbers brought to you by Reliant Energy. You see Soriano on kind of a bunched up list of Ranger home run hitters. Hidalgo, the only one to separate from the pack so far. Now, home plate umpire Brian Knight says that's it for Soriano. That also ends our time with Mr. John Daniels. I got to go hit the weight room, so I'll see you later.
Thanks, JD.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, John. Continued success to you guys.
Appreciate it.
All right. Chris Young back to work. He allowed a 3-run homer to Troy Gloss in the first inning. Now has to face Luis Gonzalez. The Rangers' second to last spring training game. And things start up for real in Anaheim the night of April the 5th. The home opener, don't forget, is April the 11th. Luis Gonzalez turns on one, drives it to right, up on the berm. It is a 4-1 lead for Arizona. That's a guy with a 57 home run season in the books. He hits his second of spring training 05.
Yeah, when you talk about guys who have hit 57 home runs or more, most of them are a lot more muscular than Luis Gonzalez. He's a strong guy, obviously, wiry, but not of the Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds mold, that's for sure.
Strike one to Gloss. They call him Gonzo, not just short for Gonzalez, but because he's been told by Mark Grace he looks like that character from the Muppet Show, the one with the large crooked beak. And as Randy Johnson once said, Tag, if you don't like Luis Gonzalez, you don't like people.
Well, I've never met him, so I don't know him well, but judging by all the people who have said that same thing, he must be one heck of a guy.
That long adhered to adage that nice guys finish last, took it right in the shorts 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was authored by a guy who wasn't necessarily a nice guy.
Gloss pops one up. Matthews fighting the glare of the sun. He will make the catch. What, do you have a story for us?
No. What, Leo DeRocher who said that?
Uh-huh.
You know, those are the kind of things that people who aren't nice people say to justify them being the way that they are. It's one of the dumbest things ever said.
Well, not only did Gonzalez's Diamondbacks win that World Series, but it was Gonzalez himself who provided the game-winning hit in the bottom of the ninth. They said it was like Santa Claus winning the lottery when that happened. And he can turn on the ball, no doubt. Of course, all he did to win the World Series was hit a little flare, a little dunker in a left field.
He could have thumb surgery after that hit, but he'll take it.
Well, we are being overrun with nice guys. Chris Young out on the mound. Very well spoken, very articulate. Gonzalez in the dugout. Sean Green up at the plate. Another one of those guys, kind of soft-spoken, but nobody's got a bad word to say about him. After the home run, a couple of outs. Jose Cruz Jr. coming up next. Rumor has it, by the way, Tag, that Luis Gonzalez, once he is out of this game, is going to go looking for that mascot costume.
Oh, really? What's he going to do with it?
Put it on, baby. Put it on.
Trying to show his versatility.
Mm-hmm. They've got all kinds of zany in-between innings promotions here that the mascot's involved with. Had the water balloon toss between innings. I know you've got a water balloon story to tell us at some point.
Yeah, we've got 2 outs right now. I might wait till next inning.
This was the site, though, right, of the famed water balloon
This was the
caper?
site and one of the highlights of my 2 boys' childhood. They still talk about it.
Grip and a miss by Cruz. Former Rice University Owl.
I might get in trouble telling it, though, for parents whose children might be watching today's game. So I don't know if it's the wisest thing to talk about, but...
Good, clean fun, though, right? I mean, you're not endorsing it, but nobody got hurt.
No, I'm not endorsing it, and no one got hurt. I was playing in Tucson, and our team came to Albuquerque for a game, and I brought my 2 boys with me. Tim was 8 at the time, and I think Ben was about 3. And after the game, we went back to the Howard Johnson's Motor Lodge where the team was staying.
Then it was bombs
now
away.
The rest of the story next inning. I knew that would happen as soon as I started talking.
That was Paul Harvey. Good day. 4-1. Diamondbacks over the Rangers. We'll be back to hear about the great water balloon caper after this. Diamondbacks 4 and the Rangers 1. We go to the bottom of inning 3, and Hank Blaylock is going to come on up there and let us talk about him, but only after Tom Grieve finishes up on the now famous great water balloon caper of 78.
Well, we got back to the hotel, and one of the players, probably on purpose, had about 100 balloons with him, and I went down and got a whole handful of those balloons and brought them back and filled them up and brought the boys out on the balcony and overlooked the parking lot. And we launched about 20 or 30 water balloons, not in any cars and not at any people, just to throw them out the window. And a couple of the players were out on their balcony and they saw these water balloons flying, and so a little bit after that, maybe 5 minutes later, we had probably half the team on our balcony. And unfortunately, the players started looking for targets, and they were launching the water balloons. Rich Donnelly was our manager, and the door to the room was open, and he walked in, took one look, said, "I don't even want to know, I don't even want to see," and turned around and he walked out. The funniest part was the next day when we went outside, all you could see was popped balloons all over the parking lot. And
They have a little water balloon shenanigan thing going on here in between innings.
look at that. Having a hard time catching it.
Cintrone, leap and a throw. What a play to get Michael Young. Wow. That is mid-season form right there.
During the season, you might get a little argument on that call at first base. Beautiful play, though. It doesn't take anything away from the play Cintrone makes. A little bit of Derek Jeter on that.
Yep. Michael Young can appreciate that play. He's made it himself at shortstop. Estes now to Mark Teixeira. Boy, it's tough when you watch the flight of these foul balls here, Tom. It's tough not to just be hypnotized. You've got this bright blue sky and those snow-capped sandy mountains out in the background. I don't know if I've had more fun following an arcing foul ball.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. We're going to San Francisco, and it's pretty tough to beat the view beyond their ballpark, the bay with the boats. I'm not so sure this isn't even prettier.
In there to Mark Teixeira. So a quick and easy inning. No runs, no hits, no errors, and one very amusing water balloon story. We're at the end of 3. Diamondbacks on top of the Rangers 4-1. As far as we know, that is not Luis Gonzalez in the mascot costume quite yet, but we'll keep you posted. Arizona leads Texas 4-1. And operators are standing by, folks. A little reminder here, 817-273-5100 throughout this broadcast. If you want to lock up that great mini plan, the 14-game plan, get the 15th game for nothing. That's how you get it done. You just pick up the phone and call 817-273-5100. There's some terrific teams coming in, terrific games included in those 14-game plans. The Rangers' home opener is April the 11th. with the defending AL West champions coming in, the Angels. As you're aware, Tom, they're now the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
That's going to be a tough one. Tough to spit that out.
We talked about it a bit in Surprise, but how do you see the West? I mean, I think everybody's saying the Angels are still the prohibitive favorites right now with what they've got both at the plate and on the mound.
I think the conventional wisdom when it looks at the West is pretty obvious. You look at Anaheim as the team to beat. They've got virtually an all-star team. And then I think you look at the A's, maybe not accurately, but most people look at the A's, having lost Mulder and Hudson, as a team that's going to finish 4th in the division. That might not be quite as accurate. And I think you look at the Rangers as a team that contended last year and has a great chance to contend again this year. Seattle, who was a last-place team last year, should be a lot better, adding Beltre and Sexton at third and first base. They needed offense. They didn't score a lot of runs. Ryan Franklin would like to have had both of those guys in the lineup last year. Had the worst run support of any pitcher in the league. So I think when you add those two bats to Seattle's lineup, if their starting pitching can bounce back a little bit, they have a chance to be a very solid team too. And I don't look at the A's as being a last-place team. I think the A's, the Rangers, and Seattle are all going to be contenders. I think it's accurate to say that Anaheim is the team to beat. I think the rest of us are going to be right in there with them. Every team has questions, and you can say, well, these guys have to stay healthy, and the Rangers starting pitching has to improve, and the bullpen has to be as good as it is last year. Those kind of ifs and questions are with every team at this time of year. No team has a perfect team. No team is 100% healthy. No team can afford to lose their 4th place hitter or their -1 starter or their bullpen closer. So every team's in the same boat as far as those concerns go.
Well, the Rangers had a great start, remember, last year. They were 17-9. Which at that point was the best record in baseball. Tony Clark fouls one off his foot. The Rangers never did stop believing in the impossible last year. Nobody figured them to be contenders, but they were right up until that last week of the season. What Buck Showalter liked to call Mr. Toad's Wild Ride last year.
Well, one thing you don't have to worry about with the Rangers, they're not the type of team, they don't have the type of players who will rely on last year's press clippings and try to live off of last season. They all were not satisfied. They were happy to have played well, but they weren't satisfied to come in 2nd place. And virtually every guy you listen to or read about is saying the same thing. We feel like we'll be contenders and we'll be disappointed if we don't win. So they're not going to rest on their laurels. They're not going to take anything for granted. They'll continue to be a team that works hard and plays hard.
Watch Mark DeRosa make the play, kind of like Michael Young would have made that play.
You know, I watched that play be made, and I thought it was Michael Young out there. It looked exactly like him making that play. Same style.
That was probably the story of spring training last year, wasn't it, Tag? The fact that Mike Young went into the manager's office right off the jump and said, hey, you need me to play short, I'll play short.
I think that did set the tone for the season as far as an unselfish attitude and playing as a team, everybody pulling together. And it sure helps with when it's one of your best players who shows that kind of an attitude, and that filters on down with everybody else.
Off the bat of Coy Hill to right field, and Chris Young navigates through it without an issue here in the 4th. Bottom of the 4th coming up from Isotopes Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 4-1. Having a good time, wishing you were here. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Had some great New Mexican food last night, Tag. Best sopapillas I've ever had in my life. Outstanding. DeMarlo Hale, how you doing?
Good, Josh. How you doing?
How you been eating? What'd you go out and partake of last night?
Actually, I had a quiet night. I was in the room.
All right.
Catching up on the rest.
Chatting with DeMarlo here, brought to you by Dodge. Some sounds of the game in the bottom of the fourth with the Rangers down 4-1. Will you continue chatting with us, D, even if Richard Hidalgo makes it your way right here?
No question. I'm with you guys.
Give him some real good coaching once he gets down there, will you?
Well, he's been swinging the bat pretty good, so it's nice to see that he's come in and fit in very well with this team. So it's been a pleasure, really.
I think there's a misnomer sometimes, DeMarlo, about the job of a first base coach. I think to the untrained eye, a lot of times people just figure, oh yeah, all he does is shout back. That's all I ever got to do. Show us what else goes into it here.
It's a little more. We'll get into it. Oh, wait, no. Oh, it's doing. Got no outs here, all right? Freezing line. Pretty good move, too, okay? You get that leg lift up and hold it. Yeah, it's a little more to it, Josh. Besides trying to read keys and kind of presetting these guys what might be ahead. Oh, Kevin.
Well, that was a pretty good example right there that you showed us. And I know that wasn't just for our benefit either.
No, not at all. Not at all. I got to do it here. I know other people hear it, but it's a little more to it for sure. And it's been a joy, really, seeing these guys react. That way, Kevin, swing it. Come on. That way, Kevin.
Hey, I'm sorry we didn't mic you up earlier, D.
Everybody got some runs earlier. But besides that, we got to remind guys of arm strengths in the outfield, and they've made some changes here. So, usually when the starters are in, you kind of know tendencies of outfielders. So, I try to prepare them with what might happen, and these guys run the bases pretty good, Josh. So I'm very happy to kind of help them along the way.
DeMarlo, this is Tom. When you have a man on first base, he's looking to the third base coach for the signs.
Get out. Come on, G. Oh, boy. Yeah.
He's looking to the third base coach for the signs. We've noticed you do the same thing. How often during the season does the guy on first base look at you and say, hey, what's on, big guy?
Oh, it happens. We have our different signals and codes, and, we change up. There's some pretty smart first basemen over here to try to pick up on some of our verbals or what have you. So we all want to be on the same page, and, sometimes they just do need a little help. But back, what?
Well, it is kind of confusing. Like, if he doesn't know what the sign is and he looks to you, you just can't tell him because the first baseman's sitting right there.
Absolutely. So we got codes and some hand signals, and for those who's listening to us, other teams, we change them up quite a bit. So. But this is the key. This is where it starts. This is where we're trying to create runs, get 90 feet around the diamond and push runs across. Kind of like that first run we got with Kevin Minch. Break it up. Oh, boy.
Break up the double play, right?
Absolutely. Those are some of the little things that, we want to be aggressive with, breaking up the double play, making this pitcher throw more pitches, giving our lineup another out. Oh, it's setting.
Does Chad Tracy know you're wired for sound, or does he think you're nuts?
No, I told Chad I was wired for sound, so he knows what's going on.
Tell Chad we said hi too, would you?
I won't do it now. It might disturb him here. Chad, Tom, and Josh said hello to you. So,
hey, what's going on?
Listen to that.
Got anybody? Ask him if he's got anybody he wants to say hi to.
You got anybody you want to say hello to while they looking?
Not really.
Not really? So he's concentrating.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have good conversations over here sometimes with the first baseman.
We'll leave him alone.
Break it up. Uh-oh. Very good, though.
Hey, nothing you could do about that one, D. Hey, thanks for your time, man. That was awesome.
All right.
DeMarlo Hale, Ranger first base coach. Rangers did get a couple of runs on a Kevin Mensch home run. And at the end of 4, it's the Diamondbacks 4 and the Rangers 3. Chris Young done. Ron Mayhay comes out of the bullpen now, and we'll see what he's got for us as Rangers and the Diamondbacks go at it this afternoon in Albuquerque, New Mexico. On to San Francisco, by the way, from here. We'll have that game for you tomorrow as well. Day off on Monday, and then the regular season opener is Tuesday night in Anaheim. Home opener, April the 11th. That is a Monday afternoon. 817-273-5100, the number to call to get your seats. First at bat for Matt Keita.
Just looking through the press clips here, Josh, I said that Albuquerque was almost the same elevation as Denver. It's actually higher than Denver by 70 feet. Higher than any U.S. city.
Keita, a quick out. It's certainly easy to get around this city, no doubt about that. By the way, a Rangers game, the perfect place for your group or company outing. Special discounts available for any game for groups of 20 or more. TexasRangers.com has info, or for more information, you can call 817-273-5100, extension 2. Strike to Alex Cintron. Soriano will make that play. Now the Rangers tomorrow, Tom, in that game against San Francisco, will send Chan Ho Park to the mound, and obviously a lot of people wanting to make sure that Chan Ho is good to go.
Well, he's looked good in spring training. Seems to be healthy. I think the Rangers are being a little bit cautious in their praise right now of Chan Ho because it is only spring training, and let's see what happens during the season. But heading into the season, everything looks pretty good. Hopefully it'll continue. Chan Ho will get the start in Seattle. He won't pitch in Anaheim. He's pitched very well in that ballpark, although he'd be facing a little bit different ball club too.
By the way, in the 5th inning, Don Wakamatsu will be joining us, the Ranger bench coach. Get some insight from him. He played in Albuquerque for a couple of years. Well, Mayhay looking pretty good so far. There's Don Wakamatsu. Buck Showalter's right-hand man.
Torero.
Great inning from Ron Mayhay. Rangers right in this thing, 4-3 in the 5th. We'll be back to Albuquerque after this.
Top of the order for the Rangers in the bottom of the 5th. Alfonso Soriano had a single in the first, struck out in the second. Sean Estes still on the mound. I want to welcome in Don Wakamatsu, the Rangers bench coach. Don, thanks for taking some time to talk to us. I know it's a little bit of a hassle during the game, but a man of your versatility can handle it.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Okay, you're welcome. Don, one thing you could do right off the bat is, for people that have watched you in the dugout and don't understand everything that goes into being a bench coach, what are some of your main responsibilities during the ball game as you help Buck?
Well, the biggest thing is probably the opposing pitchers, their times. If we're looking to steal a base, trying to find their delivery times. in a game like this, which is extremely tough, and the double switches, in spring training where you have almost 18 guys on each club, and the starters will start and play anywhere from 3 to 5 innings and maybe longer depending on how close you get to the season. You're pretty busy in the dugout scratching out lineup cards and making changes.
No doubt about that. We went through the same problem with our scorecards up here. In addition to being the bench coach, Don, you also double as the catching instructor. Are you trying to watch your catches during the course of the ball game almost on every pitch as well?
Well, you like to be another set of eyes. Like Sandy today, starting the game, said he felt a little uncomfortable. He has a tendency to, try to get Chris Young down a little bit, so he bends his back over and kind of caused him to stiffen up a little bit. So we try to get his back a little bit more vertical, and also with his glove position, where he's trying to give a low target, he tends to turn the glove a little bit too much, and received a couple balls, not exactly the way he'd like to. So you're kind of a extra set of eyes where he can come in and kind of rely on you and give him a little confidence.
I think that's very interesting for people that watch a ball game. Even for those of us who have played watching the ball game, we don't pick up the little points like that, and it's interesting to hear all the things behind the scenes that really go into it. It's not just sitting there watching a ball game, is it?
No, well, it's nice. I think it's kind of a security blanket for a lot of these guys. They know somebody's watching them and kind of patting them on the back, and that's there for them when they're struggling a little bit.
It's a long spring training. Are you guys ready to start the season?
Well, I think everybody's chomping at the bit. This is a great place to come and get ready for the season. I think the weather's been great, and the fan support's been outstanding.
Well, it's going to be 3 up, 3 down. Don, it's been quick, but thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it.
Tom, thanks for having me again.
And that's going to be 4-3 at the end of 5.
Final tune-up for Chris Young, the Dallas native, went the first 4 innings today. He's standing by with our Jim Knox. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Josh. Hello, Tom. Looking forward to another great season. So is Chris Young right here. Not a bad game, Chris. So far, so good. You pitched 4 good innings. One big mistake that came in the first inning. After that, you settled down nicely.
Yeah, I gave up 4 runs on 2 pitches, but it was a basic tune-up for next week for my first game. So all in all, I'm pleased. I'm where I need to be, and I'm ready to go.
And a busy offseason for you as well. You stayed in Arlington, got married, and then you worked on a few new mechanics, huh?
Yeah, it was a busy, very busy offseason, but it was a great one. I put in a lot of hard work, got married, so it was, it was exciting, and hopefully it'll prepare me for the season.
How about the slider? How's that coming along, Chris?
Slider's coming along. Today was my 3rd game throwing it, and threw some good ones. It's hard to judge a breaking ball in this thin air, but I threw some good ones today. I threw some bad ones, but it's coming along.
Chris, as far as confidence goes, this time last year you weren't even a Texas Ranger. The trade took place tomorrow. It was 1 year from tomorrow the trade would have taken place. You came over to the Montreal Expos. How confident are you right now going into the upcoming season, knowing that you got a place on this rotation?
I'm very confident. It's been an exciting year for me this past year. It's been a great opportunity here with the Rangers. I'm thankful to be here and excited to make the most of it.
Chris, appreciate the time. Good luck this season. Thank you. Josh?
All right, Jim. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, Doak Walker, Bobby Lane, there have been some pretty good athletes come out of Highland Park High School, but how about Chris Young for the new millennium?
Well, if he has a career like those guys, it's going to be fun watching it.
It is just starting, too. Of course, Chris had the big decision to make. NBA or MLB. That was weighing on him heavily. At the end of last season, Chris had gotten a call-up from AA to AAA, and it just so happened the Oklahoma team was playing in Sacramento, where the Sacramento Kings, who had his NBA rights, gave him a call, said, listen, as long as you're in Sacramento, we should talk. How'd you like a nice, fat NBA contract right now? And Chris Young, knowing that baseball for him is really where it was mentally at. Oh, yeah, he mulled it. He made sure he made the right call. But then on the very last day of last season, he went into Buck Showalter's office, said, listen, I need to let you know what's been going on for me. Here's what I've decided to do. McCracken down the left field line. The first hit allowed by Ron Mayhay. And just to complete the Chris Young situation, Tom, I think the Rangers, in very good faith, stepped up and said, listen, if you want to commit to baseball and you're looking for us to make a commitment to you, we will do that. I mean, we think enough of you that we'll make sure that this is the right call for you.
Yeah, it's a decision that a team doesn't have to make very often. Very seldom are you confronted with a similar situation. And the other side of it, it's a situation that a player doesn't have very often either. So it was a unique situation, and I think the Rangers handled it well. And I think Chris was appreciative of that. And the bottom line is he chose to play baseball, chose to stay with the Rangers, and he's in the rotation, and it's probably a good decision.
This game, quite ironically, right across the street from the pit. University of New Mexico plays its home games there, but it's known for hosting some pretty good March Madness games. Heck, as recently as 2 weeks ago, that Wake Forest, West Virginia double OT thriller. That's where Texas Tech eventually lost to West Virginia. And about 20 years ago, Tag, that's where NC State beat Phi Slamma Jamma, beat Houston.
Wow.
Jim Valvano running around looking for someone to hug.
That decision on Chris and that the Rangers had to make would have been a lot tougher if it came up before the Rangers got to see him pitch in the big leagues last year. I think the Rangers had at least a small level of comfort, even though it wasn't a huge sample, and they were very happy with the way Chris pitched. And I think that made that a little bit easier for them to extend that contract. Had it happened during the minor league season last year, probably would have been tough for the Rangers to make that commitment. And without that big league experience, basketball might have been a little bit more of a lure for Chris too. So it worked out well.
Well, between Chris Young, Doug Brocail, if Cameron Lowe gets back up here this year,
Oh, yeah.
the 6'5" and over crowd on that Ranger pitching staff will be pretty big. You got a 6'5.5" catcher in Sandy Alomar Jr. There have never been many tall catchers when you think about it in baseball. It's a position that requires so much up and down. Someone once worked it out that the average major league catcher over the course of a season, Tag, squats 21,000 times. That can't be real good on the knees. And when you're 6'5", 6'6", that's just, you're going up and down further. Rip and a miss by Barden. 2 down, 6th inning. Those long limbs for Sandy Alomar Jr., I guess, kind of automatically put him in harm's way. So that is not the classic catcher's build back there. Usually catchers are, kind of stocky and squatty. But Carlton Fisk was 6'3". I think Bill Freehand was probably about 6'3".
What's the young catcher's name for the Twins? They're a little bit worried about him.
Joe Mauer?
Joe Mauer's already had some problems, not because of squatting, but he did hurt a knee on a play going after a foul ball. He's a tall catcher, great young prospect, great catcher, excellent hitter, but people worry a little bit about that. Will he be an exception to the rule and a successful tall catcher?
Tracy grounds out, Mayhay out of the inning. There was a 1-out double, nothing else. We will play the bottom of the 6th in Albuquerque, New Mexico at Isotopes Park. 4-3 Diamondbacks. Bottom of the 6th inning, and no, that's not Jim Knox in there. We'll go find out where he really is. Where are you, Jim?
I'm right behind Orbit, I think. Anyway, Ken Young, he is the mastermind of this beautiful ballpark right here. He's the owner and also president of the Albuquerque Isotopes. And Ken, you can't pick a better day. Beautiful weather, 2 great major league teams going head-to-head. Great game, and you're on the thick of things right now. But also the Isotopes in Albuquerque, you guys handed over a pretty good check to the city yesterday, didn't you?
Well, the community's been so supportive, Jim, and yesterday we handed over more than $2 million based on last year's lead police and everything else. So the city made out pretty well, but they built us a beautiful facility here too.
It is outstanding. Also, you probably recognize a few of the Rangers. They played baseball here in Albuquerque on their way up to the Bigs.
Yeah, matter of fact, Adrian Gonzalez was with us, Chad Allen was with us, so we have some familiar names here.
Now, you keep pretty busy. Not only do you own this team, there's another club, right?
Yeah, matter of fact, I own the Norfolk Tides, the AAA affiliate of the New York Mets in Norfolk, Virginia. So in the summertime, I go back and forth between here and Norfolk.
What do you expect this season in Albuquerque as far as baseball?
I'll tell you what, we're looking for a great team for one thing. We average 575,000 people here, and the people in Albuquerque have just been terrific. So we look for another great year.
Anyway, Josh Lewin can try out for Orbit, the mascot, this next upcoming season.
Well, you know what? I go back a few years with Josh, so I'm sure he'd fit into that costume just perfectly.
Appreciate it, Ken. Josh.
I'll pass, Ken, but thanks. Yeah, when I was doing AAA ball in Rochester, Ken had just taken ownership of that Norfolk Tides group, and that's a great ballpark too, Harbor Park in Norfolk, Virginia. They do a wonderful job here. And I don't know about you, Tom. I mean, we've got our complimentary Isotopes merchandise that was nicely handed to us by their GM, John Traub, before the game.
Nice shirts. I like those.
Great shirts, great logo. And therein lies the tale. I promised we would tell the story of the Isotopes, and we'll try to get to that this inning. 2-2 pitch first from Brandon Lyon to Mark Teixeira. Tex off the end of the bat will be the first out here in the bottom of the sixth inning. I don't know if you remember the Springfield Isotopes, Tom. They maybe were back a little bit before your day on The Simpsons, but that was the hometown team of one Homer Simpson. He was so proud to go and root for him until their unscrupulous owner, the owner of the Duff Brewery, decided he could get a better deal, better stadium deal, move the team to Albuquerque. It was quite an episode. Stacy Keach was the guest star. But I digress. Anyway, the Albuquerque team, as Hidalgo grounds out, at the exact same time that episode was airing, they were actually in the process here of acquiring this second AAA franchise. They had lost their first. They had always been known as the Dukes, which is a tip of a hat to the Duke of Albuquerque, for which this stadium is named. It goes back a long, long way, and that was a very prideful name. All of a sudden, this Simpsons episode airs, and everybody says, hey, I like that, the Isotopes. The Albuquerque Isotopes. And just up the pike from here, they've got the, we've got proof here. It's the favorite team of the Simpsons. They're watching on. But they've got the Los Alamos Lab just up about an hour from here. Isotopes, atomic energy. There's a tie in there. The local citizenry voted Isotopes over Dukes in a very close race, but they are now the Topes.
Pretty interesting.
Thank you for saying that. And grounds one foul.
I was not a big Simpson fan, so that's all new to me. I know you are. Dave Burchett, our able director, big Simpson fan. In the Isotopes media guide, they have the definition of an isotope. I had no idea what an isotope was, and then I read it, and I have less of an idea now.
Well, as you said to us earlier, you're not a physicist.
No, I'm not.
Menchu has already homered once, lifting this one towards the warning track and left. By the time we come back, Tom will have figured out what the heck is an isotope. 4-3 at the end of 6. Back to Albuquerque in a moment. Three-run homer by Troy Gloss in the top of the first innings. Got the Diamondbacks still out to this 4-3 lead. And you're not going nuts. That is the Sesame Street theme music in the background as we get you back to Albuquerque. We have some changes to tell you about on the field. First, we go to Jim Knox.
At shortstop, number 96, Cody Ransom. And catching, we are number 6, Gerald Blair. Dix in center field. Ransom in shortstop. Laird.
Oh, we apologize for the technical difficulties. We were hoping to get Jim's mic working down there. Perhaps we can go back to him. Right now we'll tell you about the changes. Austin, Texas native Connor Jackson, one-time first-round pick of these D-backs tag, very recently a first-round pick, up against Ryan Buckfitch, the new Ranger pitcher. Jackson was the 19th overall pick in 2003. Ryan Buckfitch, late of the Padres and the Royals, likely to open the season at AAA for the Rangers. He does have an option left. And the Rangers have been impressed with how hard he throws and how hard he competes. I think he's one of those guys that if he doesn't break camp with the team tag, we'd probably see him eventually.
Well, he has options, so he's on the roster. That's a little bit of a concern with Nunez, who's a non-roster player. But the Rangers, as we've already heard, the pitch right there from Buckfitch, are going to go with 8 guys in the bullpen until Pedro Estacio starts. And so guys like R.A. Dickey, Regilio, Nunez, Buckfitch. Little question on Erasmo, whether his fingers are all right. But a couple of those guys are going to be on the roster to start the season. And the Rangers, I'm sure, are still sorting through that right now. The guys who are on the roster, 25-man, it would appear, in the bullpen would be Almanzar, Brocail, Cordero, Mayhay, Schaus, and Riley. It appears those 6 guys are on the team right now. They're fairly comfortable with Brian Schaus's health, and Riley, who they just acquired, doesn't have options left.
Corey Myers first at bat. He flies to right field. Myers, one of these guys that's been in the organization for 6 going on 7 years as a catcher, Tom, has not gotten a break quite yet. But you know what? That's the Rod Barajas story. And Rod has ended up doing just fine.
Yep.
Barajas' former team, the Arizona Diamondbacks, with a 4-3 lead on the Rangers today.
Well, in today's game, Josh, the salary that a player can make at AAA is a good enough salary when you combine that with the major league minimum of over $300,000. It's hard not to keep playing because you can make a good enough living playing in AAA. It didn't always used to be that. You go back 15 or 20 years and your AAA salary for a season might have been $7,000 or $8,000, and it was pretty tough to live on that when you got to be, your late 20s. You started to get a couple of kids. It was a little tougher not to go into the workforce and make a decent living. But now players can make a very solid salary at AAA, and when you combine that with what they can make if they're called up to the big leagues, it makes chasing that dream a little bit easier, and players are willing to stay with it a lot longer. That's a good thing.
Matt Cata right back to Buckfitch, and the inning is over. Quick and easy once again. We are at the stretch in the land of enchantment. 4-3 Arizona. Rangers are within 4-3 with the Arizona Diamondbacks here. A Kevin Mensch 2-run home run has helped out. With Buck Parking Mondays, you can park your car at a Rangers game for just $1 thin dollar. The offer good for parking in lots F and G for Monday games except for opening day in April, May, and June. Opening day will be a Monday, April the 11th. Hope you're making plans to come on out. 817-273-5100, the number to call to get your tickets. Angels are in for 3. The Toronto Blue Jays come in for 4. And the Oakland A's finish up a nice long homestand right there in the middle of April. Lance Nix flies out to left. Lance is first at bat. And the new pitcher for Arizona, by the way, Brian Bruni. How's your scorecard looking there?
Well, fortunately, I don't have to really depend on it too much, but it's not looking too good. I'm glad I'm not doing the play-by-play.
Although I do appreciate you picking me up there in that 5th inning.
Do you want to reevaluate that dinner you had last night? Which I remember you saying was the best Mexican dinner you've ever had.
Boy, it was last night. There's a scene in Dumb and Dumber that I won't recreate for you now, but anyway, Adrian Gonzalez at the plate. And Adrian Gonzalez, a fan favorite here in Albuquerque. Spent much of the 2003 season here. And talking to Adrian before the game, he too joins that litany of players that have literally nothing bad to say about their time spent here. Of course, there's been a lot of winning baseball here too, and I guess that would help. Go back to those teams that Oral Hershiser was on here, Tag, in the early 80s. I mean, you're talking about playing with Steve Sax and Alejandro Pena, Mike Marshall, Franklin Stubbs, Sid Bream. It's a pretty good team.
It really was. It kept coming year after year.
And when Don Wakamatsu was here, his teammates were Eric Young, Mike Piazza, Pedro Martinez, hot shot foul by Gonzalez. Gonzalez continues to have a sizzling spring for these Rangers. One of the last big questions to have answered for us. Will Adrian Gonzalez make this team?
Oh, that takes care of that.
No, come on.
Just sent him out. That was his chance. No, you can't do anything more than he's done this spring to make a ball club. He hits lefties. He makes contact. Didn't make contact that time, but no one goes to bat every time without striking out. And he's a good defensive player. He's coming off a great AAA season. He's done everything he needs to do to be in the big leagues. It's up to the Rangers to decide whether or not he's going to get that opportunity, but I think all signs are pointing in that direction right now.
The only issue is it would load the Rangers up a little bit too much perhaps from the left side. Ideally, if Greg Colburn was healthy and had performed well in spring training, you might feel good about making him your DH against lefties and then DeLucci is your DH against righties. But Colburn is going to open the season on the DL and quite frankly just was not ever at a point where he could really uncoil and go after it here in spring training. What was he, 4 for 33? Little flare, right field, down for a base hit for DeRosa. And back to the top of the order now for Alfonso Soriano. Folks, with the Rangers' full or half-season ticket plan, you get the best prices, the best locations, outstanding benefits like $50 or $100 in food and beverage vouchers. Get bonus tickets, you get merchandise discounts. Find out more by calling 817-273-5100, extension 2.
Rest of the lineup changes for Texas. Again, Nick's batting in the 7th spot.
Soriano's got a base hit today. Of course, his spring training started at 0 for 17.
Catcher in the 2nd spot.
There was a lot of fidgeting back in the Metroplex about the hamstring injury of last year and how far along Soriano maybe was in his recovery. Lately, though, Tag, he's been about a 400 hitter. There seems to be a lot less fidgeting. Coming in at 2004, Soriano, remember, it had consecutive seasons of 35 homers and 35 steals. Last year he slowed a bit, 32 home runs, 18 steals, which are still phenomenal numbers for a second baseman.
Yeah, it's normal for a front office to worry about the players. I think you spend half your time worrying no matter who the players are, what their track record is. But it's always interesting to get a player's perspective. And although the Rangers were a little bit worried about the way Soriano was moving around early in camp, when you asked a player like Michael Young, he said, hey, what's the big deal? Look at what he's done in the past. We don't have any doubt that Soriano's going to be ready. And it looks like the players were right. Problem is, the front office always has to worry about that, because if he's not, you have to have a second plan.
Bruni continues to impress in his inning here, 2-2. I think it's funny, Tom. Alex Rodriguez went to New York. He put up all-star numbers. Yankee fans were expecting more. Soriano came to Texas, put up all-star numbers, and you sense that Ranger fans maybe at times expected a little bit more.
Well, each one of them had done a little bit more at different stages of their career, and I guess you always want that to happen. In Alex's case, he had an excellent season. Boy, there's a whole bunch of us that would have died to have that kind of season that he had. And the same with Soriano, but unfortunately, both of them had set such high standards. It's very difficult to reach them every year.
That's exactly it. 32 homers, 18 steals from a second baseman. That's...
What else do you want?
Except that the guy
50 steals.
Right, the guy had done 35 and 35, so the Rangers fans, a lot of them, I think, were just thinking, well, all right, it's good, but where's those next few home runs and dozen stolen bases you're missing? DeRosa trots into second base, set his ball forward to Soriano. Hank Blaylock's spot in the order here, but it is not a Hank coming up. Looks like Gerald Laird is going to hit. Well, for what it's worth, just talking about Soriano, Tag, he's looking for a 4th consecutive season of 20 home runs or more. And coming into 2005, there have only been 3 second basemen who have ever accomplished such a thing. Ryne Sandberg, who's going in the Hall of Fame, Brett Boone, and Jeff Kent. That's it. Andres Torres pinch running at first for Soriano. And Laird getting in at bat here. He was the Oklahoma catcher in the first game ever played at this ballpark, April of 2003. Well, again, the Rangers not getting cheated on their swings here against Bruni.
Well, Bruni's got a good arm, his fastball in the 90s. Bruni had a 1.42 ERA in 38 innings in AAA last year. And pitched pretty well for Arizona as well. 34 strikeouts, 31 innings.
And this is Laird's one at bat against this guy. I think Gerald is fully cognizant of the fact, Tom, that he has all but been squeezed off this roster to begin the season. Sandy Alomar appears to have made it. Of course, Rob Barajas has made it. But you also get the sense that ignites him. He wants that challenge of going to AAA and winning his way back. Rangers leave a couple here in the 7th inning. We will play the 8th at Isotopes Park. It is 4-3 Diamondbacks.
Hello, everybody, and on behalf of the Texas Rangers, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to watch Rangers baseball. And I don't know of anybody that's more excited about the 2005 Texas Rangers season than I am. And how could you not be excited about getting ready to watch some of the greatest baseball players in the world? In just a second, I'll tell you about a special ticket offer you can only get during this broadcast. But first, let me remind you about some of the great things you saw at Ameriquest Field in Arlington last year. Like sweeping the eventual world champs, winning a series from New York, coming back from 10 runs down against Detroit, sweeping Oakland in September while we were chasing the pennant, and all kinds of other clutch wins. Well, for watching Rangers baseball today, you're going to be rewarded because I'm going to tell you about a special ticket offer right now that we mentioned a little earlier. If you order your tickets before the end of this broadcast, you can get tickets to the opening homestand for just $10. This offer's good every game that first week and a half with the exception of opening day and on Saturday. The seating range includes any seat regularly priced under $27.50. That means tons of lower-level seats, club-level seats, and the best upper-level seats and bleacher seats. You won't regret it. Exciting Rangers baseball in one beautiful ballpark, all for just $10. Call us right now, 817-273-5100. Operators are standing by.
Wrapping up spring training stop here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Rangers and the Diamondbacks playing ball. We go to Jim Knox.
Thanks, Josh. One of the newest Rangers this year, Richard Hidalgo, be a fixture in right field. Richard, so far you're fitting in nicely, having a good spring. Looking forward to hitting at the Ameriquest Field?
Yeah, well, thanks to God that I feel pretty good right now. I'm just working hard to do my best in spring training and put everything together for the season. So I just got to be ready, man, and do my best and help the team.
For Ranger fans who are not familiar with your style of play, what can they expect to see?
Well, you know what, we got a pretty good team right now, and I think we're gonna do pretty good in this season. Hopefully, everything stay healthy and just play the game and enjoy.
As far as your play?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just feel pretty good, and I just gotta be out there and play the game and enjoy it.
Okay, appreciate the time, Richard. Good luck this season, Josh.
The great thing about Richard Hidalgo, we're coming to get to know, and Jim, thanks for that interview. He really is kind of uncomfortable talking about his own talent, and he's got a lot of it. He's got that bazooka of an arm in right field. He's had a 44 home run season. We'll talk more about Hidalgo as we go along, but first I want to introduce you to Matt Riley. He is now the man on the mound for the Rangers, and our first look at him, Tom, it's really the Rangers' first full look at him here, as he'll get an inning or two to show what he can do.
Well, he put up some incredible minor league numbers when he first joined the Orioles. He was, as John Daniels told us, a third-round draft choice. And in the lower minor leagues, he was just incredible, a strikeout machine. Lately, he hasn't had the same type of success, been a little erratic with his control. But he's still young, still has an excellent arm. And if you want to call it a gamble, it's an excellent gamble for the Rangers to take. The upside for a young left-hander with that kind of talent is enormous, and they didn't have to give up a lot to get him.
Ramon Navarre is sent over to the Orioles, where he will go directly to AAA. One thing Riley has always done is a fairly good job of keeping the ball in the ballpark, and that's important if you're going to pitch half your games at Ameriquest Field in Arlington.
I think there's times, have been times in his career where his fastball has been in the mid-90s. Orioles scouts will say that it's more in the low 90s now, and although this is not necessarily a true gauge of spring training game, it's been 91 or 92.
Kinsler, what a play back there near second.
Wow.
By the way, Ian Kinsler is now playing second base for the Rangers. One of the many defensive changes we may or may not have time to tell you about. This is a heck of a catch.
Well, it's a well-hit ball by Cintrone. And it takes a pretty quick reaction and a dive to make that play. Very nice play.
Kinsler has done some very remarkable things in spring training, defensively and offensively both. Luis Torrero at the plate. This guy's a kind of a flamboyant presence tag. They say once in the minors, after he hit a home run, he knelt down and kissed home plate. And the catcher he did that in front of is now his teammate. That's Coy Hill. They didn't really agree on style points when they were opponents in that game. But now they've got to learn to get along. They are going to be Arizona Diamondbacks together. Well, you like what you've seen so far from Mr. Riley. You know that he would like to be in the starting rotation.
I think the Rangers would like to see him there too, but it's just going to take a little bit of time. The Rangers rotation is set. He'll start off in the bullpen down the road. I'm sure the Rangers would love to see him pitch well enough to earn a spot in the rotation.
Young lefty with a live arm. Boy, you need that at Ameriquest Field. Such a great home run hitter's park for left-hand swingers. And I guess the reasoning behind going out and stockpiling lefties is just that. You want to try to keep some of those lefties on the bench. Left-handed hitters. Not bad, huh? Matt Riley strikes out Torero. A good 8th inning, and now the Rangers looking for some runs as they will bat in the bottom of the 8th. Down 4-3. I like that one. Very Isaac the bartender from Love Boat right there from Coco. 4-3 Diamondbacks as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. The game summary brought to you by Bank of America. Some higher standards and the higher elevations here of Albuquerque, New Mexico. The mile-high air. Baseballs do tend to jump, and they have in this game, Tom.
Troy Gloss started it. He's had an incredible spring. Got his 33rd RBI with that home run. And then Luis Gonzalez got out in front of one. For the Rangers, Kevin Mench, a line shot. The only question was, would it be high enough to skim over the top of the fence? It was. 3 balls hit by guys who have hit him a few before.
Our Bank of America higher standards. There is Kevin Mench, who hit one of those home runs. He is standing by with our you-know-who, Jim Knox.
All right, Kevin Mench, always in a good mood. Got to show you this guy. Look at this, hard-nosed Kevin Mench playing the field. Nothing but a nice dirt stain on the nice white pants. How you doing, Kevin? Doing well. Tell us about that home run.
I don't know. You just have to get it up in the air in this place. This is unbelievable.
How would you like to hit here year-round?
I don't know. I don't think it'd be fun. We'd be scoring probably 18, 20 runs a game if it was like that.
Right now, you're hitting over 320 in spring training. You're winding it down. You're just ready to get the season started, aren't you?
Yes. I'm looking forward to this ending and getting the opening day in Anaheim.
What can Ranger fans expect for this team this year?
A lot more surprises. I mean, we surprised them last year, and I know we got a few more things in store. We left a little bit on the table last year, so like I said, we're looking forward to getting back on that horse and take it from day one.
Let me ask you this. During spring training, it's a long, drawn-out process. Has there been any one player that you were surprised with saying, hey, this guy's pretty good? I didn't know he was this good.
Ian Kinsler has had an exceptional spring. I know they're not in any hurry with him. He still has a year before I guess he needs to be put on the roster, but like I said, he's having an excellent spring and showing these guys what he can do out here.
Okay, hold on a second, Kevin. Josh had a question for you. I'm going to relay it to you. Josh, what's that?
Ask him if he knows where the new pitcher here, Ryan Holston, is from. What state?
Do you know who the new pitcher, Ryan Holston, is from? What state?
This guy?
Yeah, this guy.
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you, Josh.
Tell him it's Delaware.
Delaware.
Is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Nice.
Delaware. Kevin's a little bummed right now, guys, because no hockey season, and his Philadelphia Eagles lost the Super Bowl. But still, we got a good baseball season ahead, right, Kev? Appreciate the time. Thanks.
Go Fighting Blue Hens of Delaware. Actually, a couple of Delawareans on this Arizona team with Mike Koplov, who's a good buddy of Mench's from college. And this dude they've got on the mound right now, Ryan Holston. All right, more new Rangers to tell you about. You're saying, wait a minute, who is this guy? That's Cody Ransom, folks. Rangers just acquired him. Former San Francisco Giant prospect. Late of the Chicago Cubs spring training camp. Now, I guess some utility infield insurance, I would figure, tag for the Rangers. He will likely start the year at AAA.
Yeah, and the Rangers wanted to get a look at him, so they rushed him here so he could take part in a couple of the late spring training ball games. I'm sure that makes him feel good. Get a chance to play a couple of games in front of the big league staff. But of course, he is ticketed to AAA. Can't have enough depth at AAA. The Rangers found that out last season, and almost every team finds it out. It can determine whether you win or lose.
17 starting pitchers would prove that to be true from last season. DeLucci swan diving back in. The pitching change, by the way, brought to you by Ozarka. This is Ryan Holston.
I'm glad to see my prediction is holding true, that each team would have at least 7 wins in this ball game.
Well, the game's not over yet, partner. That one hugs the outside corner. And 2-1 the count to Ransom. Now, Isotopes Park, normally a launching pad. You never did tell us what is an isotope, by the way. You still have that info?
You want me to read that? Well, I'm more confused now than I was before. But let's read that.
All right, hang on. All right, go for it.
Any of 2 or more species of atoms of a chemical element with the same atomic number and position in the periodic table and nearly identical chemical behavior, but with differing atomic mass and different physical properties. Now you know what an isotope is.
I got a headache now. Ransom blasting away in the center.
Probably a lot of people listening who said, hey, I know what an isotope is. Yeah, right.
Those two
I've heard the word before.
A little squiggly line leading to the mound right there, kind of off on that angle, we're told represents the shape of an isotope, but they could just be pulling our legs too, because we really have never seen an isotope. Either that or the grounds crew got a little bit tipsy one night and just didn't quite finish the job.
That's probably more likely. No, they do a great job here. This field is in beautiful shape. The college team, of course, plays here. In fact, the groundskeeper apologized to the teams that the field wasn't in very good shape, and everybody said, wow, you got to be kidding me. This field's beautiful. But it does get some pretty extensive college use before the minor league season starts.
Chad Allen, the former isotope great. And it pinballs off that little cutout portion down the left field line. The Rangers will take the lead here in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Chad's had a solid spring, and he can hit. Came into the game hitting .323. He's been exceptional in a pinch hitting role with a ball club. Very aggressive, stepped right up there, liked the first pitch he saw, and ripped it down the left field line. Inside fastball. Holston didn't get that quite where he wanted, but Chad sure liked where it was.
Chad Allen, the first ever Albuquerque isotope cleanup hitter. Yeah, the pinch hitting thing's going pretty well, Tag. He's 8 for 10 in spring training off the bench.
Wow.
Here is Ian Kinsler, who's bunting, but not well. And the first out of the inning. We talked a little bit in surprise, Tom, about the art of pinch hitting and Chad Allen wearing the number that Bill Stein wore for the Rangers when he had that 7-for-7 run a little more than 20 years ago.
Yep, Steiny could hit, boy. I've said this a couple of times about Chad. It may not work out here where he's in the big leagues to start the season, but there's no way that he shouldn't be in the big leagues somewhere with somebody. He can hit, play defense, he's an aggressive player. You can't tell me that every team has 4 or 5 outfielders better than him.
Bob Melvin decides to make a pitching change here. That's going to be it for Holston. The Diamondbacks go to the bullpen now. Chad Allen will take a little break. The Rangers have grabbed the lead here 5-4. DeLucci's walk set it up. There was a single that followed. That from Cody Ransom, and then Chad Allen, the big hit off the bench to make it 5-4 Rangers. We'll be back in just a moment. Doug Slayton out of the bullpen for Arizona. This pitching change brought to you by our good friends at Ozarka. The Rangers have a couple runs in here in the bottom of the 8th inning. And hunting around for more. Lance Nix at the plate. We go to Jim Knox.
All right, thank you, Josh. You talk about experience. How about Sandy Alomar Jr. begins his 16th year this year with the Texas Rangers? You could have signed with a few other clubs. Why the Rangers?
I feel like they have a great opportunity to win and compete. I know it's a tough division, but I saw from the other side this team was pretty good last year, and they have a lot of heart. And the pitching's coming around.
Talk about the pitching. You've had a first-hand look at just about everyone on the staff right now. Your thoughts?
I think that we're better than people think and give us credit for. I think the starting rotation's getting a lot better. Today was the first day that I caught Chris Young, but he had a rough first inning, but after that he settled down.
Okay, real quick, your brother Robbie Alomar retiring this year. What do you think about it?
Well, I think he had enough. He felt like his ability wasn't there like he used to. Robbie Alomar has high standards for himself. He's a superstar player, and when he's not all there, it's very difficult.
I appreciate the time. Thank you very much, Sandy. Good luck this season. Josh?
All right, Jim, thanks. And Lance Nix, meantime, proving that, yes, he can hit left-hand pitching a little bit, huh?
Yeah, so much for the pitching change. He smoked that ball.
Was a great looking swing.
Just a line shot, 390 feet, and somehow it bounced over the fence.
That seems to be a physics impossibility, the slope of that hill. Now Adrian Gonzalez with a rip, and Torero couldn't get it. Knicks being windmilled home by Steve Smith. And the Rangers are having that big 8th inning. Well, you called for 7 runs, didn't you, Mr. Green?
Yep. You know, the other thing that Adrian keeps doing is he keeps hitting left-handed pitching. There's always a concern with a young left-hand hitter. Can he hit left-handed pitching? I don't think it's always fair to have that concern, especially when you've got a kid like Adrian who hit over 300 at AAA last year. And we saw him the other day in a ball game, key part of the game, big inning for the Rangers. Men on second and third. Left-handed slider, hit it into right field for a base hit to drive in a couple of runs, and took advantage of a little bit of a hanger right there, drilled it into right field for an RBI. I think he's showing the Rangers everything they want to see.
Now, we said it earlier, it certainly doesn't appear to be an issue of talent or whether or not he has earned the chance to be on this team. It's just a matter of whether or not it fits.
Yep, and sometimes the breaks don't go the player's way, but boy, it'd be a shame if it didn't go his way with the spring he's had and the AAA season he had last year.
Meantime, this becomes a pretty good example, I think, Tom, of why never to panic if your team is 12-18 in spring training. A lot of games are won and lost just like this. Couple pitchers who will be in Double-A and Single-A this year, respectively, are facing, for example, Lance Nix, David DeLucci, Adrian Gonzalez, and the Rangers have feasted with a 4-run 8th inning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You love to win the games, but until you're putting the players out there, 25 of them, you don't really know exactly what your team is going to look like.
By the way, we're giving DeMarlo Hale our Comcast Player of the Game award tag, because it was while he was mic'd that Mensch hit the 2-run home run. Congratulations, DeMarlo.
In contrast to Don Wakamatsu, who lasted about 3.5 minutes.
But you know what? That was just long enough.
You're right about that. There was a lot of people watching the game that were glad it was only 3.5 minutes.
No reflection on Don.
No, it has nothing to do with Don. They'd love to hear Don. Just has to do with the play-by-play.
Let's
I
just
wonder
say,
if you think anyone noticed that I was doing play-by-play?
I don't know.
I think they did.
Let's just say you were more concerned with the hits and errors today, and I was taking care of the runs.
That's a pretty good line.
Feel free to use it. Strike 3 to DeRosa.
I hope I don't have to use it. I'm definitely not going to eat where you did last night, even though it was the best meal you ever had.
It was for about 10 hours. Andres Torres coming up to the plate. Boy, what a spring training Andres Torres has had. And again, the question begs asking, is there any room for this guy? Probably the answer is going to be no, at least to start the year. But it sure is nice to know that he's there if you need to go get him. He's hitting .319 in the spring. He's got 10 stolen bases. He's got 5 triples. I would think this place could be a pretty good triples park. You get one in the left center or right center.
428 to the gaps out there.
Slugged in the air, down the left field line. Into the crowd. Ranger fans, the ball club wants to hear from you. You can take the fan feedback survey at TexasRangers.com. You can also purchase tickets on TexasRangers.com. Select Ranger games for half price if you take that survey. And if you want to call for your tickets, you're absolutely welcome to do that today. 817-273-5100. Operators, as they say, are standing by. Busted bat, loop shot, base hit for Torres. And the inning continues. Rangers is trying to help out and give people more time to dial that 817-273-5100 number. Don't forget about that great ticket offer, the 14-game mini plan, which in and of itself is really a very good deal, but you get a 15th game for nothing. That's presented by Dodge. Now the Rangers have batted around now, Tom. Gerald Laird with DeLucci out on deck. DeLucci started this mess with a leadoff walk. Rangers and Giants from beautiful San Francisco, California tomorrow. We'll have that game for you, a 3:05 start North Texas time. That is assuming you remember to do that wacky thing with your clocks. Got to set them, ahead, right?
We just have to leave ours the same because we're going to San Francisco.
Well, that's right. I didn't think of it that way. Ground ball, second base. That will end a 4-run bottom of the 8th inning. And the Rangers looking to finish spring training strong. They've got a 7-4 lead with 3 outs to get. The recently acquired Matt Riley, late of the Baltimore Orioles, online for the win here, and he's going to try to finish it off. The Rangers, who had trailed 3-0 and 4-1, have run off 6 unanswered runs. A 7-4 lead on the Diamondbacks. And Tom, as we get into this 9th inning, I thought maybe we'd spend just a little bit of time and talk about expectations for 2005. You and I have talked both on the air and off about where you go after that magic carpet ride from last year. It's going to be difficult to ratchet up the victory total, but that's exactly what the Rangers are going to need to do if they're going to beat whatever the Anaheim Angels are now called.
Well, it will be difficult because last year, obviously, a lot of things fell in place for the ball club, but they also have a year under their belt, that much more experience, and there's no reason the Rangers can't have an outstanding year. And I think if you ask the players, if you ask Buck, they'll say they want to come into a season with high expectations. They have high expectations for themselves, but at the same time, just because you win 89 games one year, in a developing year, doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win more games than that the next year. Hopefully that'll happen. Certainly the opportunity is there for it to happen. There's a lot of talent, great attitude. I think it's going to be an exciting year. And the ones with the highest expectations are right down there in uniform.
One thing that certainly seems to be almost unanimous is that Ranger fans really do seem to dig the fact that it's kind of this young, homegrown, hustling core. Whether it's that young infield or you're talking about, the Menches and Gary Matthews Jr., guys like that running around, Lance Nix out there in the outfield. I think the fans enjoy a team of essentially Rusty Greer clones.
I think Ranger fans have always been like that. Ranger fans, much more so than fans in certain other ballparks, are willing to cut the home team some slack, individual players some slack when they're not playing well, as long as they're putting out a 100% effort on the field. If you're busting your butt in the outfield, diving for balls, hustling balls to first base on routine ground balls, if you're doing all those things, the fans know it in Texas, and they appreciate it. And they will cut you some slack if things aren't going well. But if you don't hustle, it doesn't matter how you're playing. You're not going to endear yourself to the crowd. And so when you look at our ball club, it is a very good ball club. It is nice to have so many homegrown players. There are players. They're Ranger fans players. They feel like they know them from the time they got to the big leagues. Hopefully they'll stay here for a long time. And they all play the way that our fans like players to play. So it is a good relationship between our players and the fans.
There's a walk to Quentin McCracken. We go to Jim Knox.
one of the most grueling jobs on the team has to be the man who holds that. That's Zach Benazium. He is the clubhouse manager, equipment manager / concierge / what am I leaving out, Zach?
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. Now, this guy's in charge of making sure all the bags, all the luggage, and you name it, equipment is there, gets to the right destination, and so far so good. But you're about to hit a major road trip right here. Everything in tip-top shape?
Well, we're ready to go. We have all the opening day stuff already in Anaheim. We sent it ahead from Arizona last week, so we're prepared already there to open the season with new jackets and new undergarments and new uniforms and those kinds of things. So we prepared ourselves for the opening day part of the season. I think the tough part of breaking spring training and playing a couple exhibition games like we have here in Albuquerque and in San Francisco is that we're carrying a number of players more than we normally would, which means more bags, more equipment, less space to pack it in, more things to worry about. So I think once we cut down to our 25 after tomorrow, things will run a lot smoother.
And Zach, you're also in charge of baseballs, we may add, and you probably lost a few here in Albuquerque.
We lost a few. We probably lost a couple bags worth, which is probably about 16 dozen balls in the last 2 days. So ball jumps off the bat here.
Okay, Zach, we'll let you get back to work. Thanks for the time, and good luck this season as well. Josh?
All right, thanks very much, Jim. That is a thankless job, yet somehow Zach does it.
That's 16 dozen balls. They didn't even take BP today. That was all yesterday.
I do believe Zach has already FedExed the Sinatra CDs to San Francisco. That is not truly the Ranger clubhouse if you don't walk in and hear Zach's choice of music, which is one Frank Sinatra. Rangers get one out, not two, right there.
It was a good fastball by Riley, right off the fists. A little bit slowly hit to get a double play, but nice pitch right on the inside corner.
Again, Riley, a late acquisition by the Rangers. The Orioles were pretty much out of room for him. They were going to lose him if they put him on waivers trying to sneak him down to AAA, so they figured let's do something with somebody. And the Rangers were a willing trade partner. Ramon Navarre going over there. And we certainly wish Ramon well. He was a recent recipient of the Tom Grieve Minor League Player of the Year award for the Rangers. But as you said earlier, Tom, very well, he just was running up against such good competition surrounding him here. He just was not going to get a good shot.
Yeah, there might have been years together, 2 or 3 years, where he would have had a better chance in the big leagues. But
well, that was almost a terrifically turned double play, but it squirted away from Kinsler.
But the problem that Ramon had was there's so many good young players coming to the big leagues at the same time with the Rangers. There just wasn't a spot for him to develop. He got a little bit of a taste of it in the big leagues. You see Adrian Gonzalez making a great throw on the run. Everybody raves about his defense. There's a pretty good look at it right there.
Not often you see the 3-6-4 double play. Kinsler saw that Riley was late getting over there, so he was hightailing it to the bag.
But Ramon is still a player with a lot of talent. He can fly. He's got a great arm. He has some versatility. I think they're going to have to decide where they want to play him, either at second base or in the outfield. He makes contact. He's never seen a pitch he didn't like to swing at. He's not a guy that works the pitcher. His on-base percentage will pretty much be a function of his batting average. But even though he is a fairly wild swinger, he makes contact. He doesn't strike out very much.
Gonzalez will go get that one. Ball game. The Rangers have beaten the Diamondbacks here in Albuquerque. A very enjoyable stay for the Rangers in New Mexico. They beat the Rockies. They beat the D-backs. And now it is on to San Francisco. We'll be back to Albuquerque, though, in just a moment. Texas Ranger Baseball on FSN Southwest was brought to you by Dodge. Bigger in Texas, better in a Dodge. And by Albuquerque Baseball. Come see the Isotopes. We had a great time here at Isotopes Park. We go to Jim Knox.
All right, thank you, Josh. Buck Showalter, manager of the Texas Rangers, on hand. So nice comeback today, Coach.
Yeah, it was. Nobody got hurt. Had some good things happen. Got to see Matt Riley, real impressive. Another great move by John, we think. Add another left-hander into our situation here, but everybody's ready to go.
Now tonight you set the roster. Some tough moves ahead?
Oh, always, but because we're dealing with quality, and the great thing is the way that John's positioned us, we're able to keep everybody in the fold. We're not going to lose anybody, but there'll be some guys in Oklahoma City for that what-ifs.
Right now, what goes through your mind? You only have a couple exhibition games left. Are you antsy? Are you ready to get this thing underway?
Oh yeah, I am right now. Every day you're just trying to make sure you get guys that are working, everybody stays healthy. There's a great frame of mind going on right here. There's a real anticipation of what could be for us.
Last season, a lot of people didn't give the Rangers much of a chance. It was a fun season, a surprise season. For you, maybe it was a surprise, maybe not. But what are you expecting this year for the team?
Well, what I feel going in is that I know they're going to be as good as they're capable of being, and that's very comforting for all of us because our guys hold themselves to a high standard. What we're supposed to be this year, that's what I feel confident about. And there's a lot of people here very easy to trust. There's a lot of trust grown in the last couple of years here in the organization, all the way through the system, and we're ready to go.
Buck, appreciate the time and good luck this season. Thank you. Josh?
All right, Jim, thank you, Buck. And a crowd of close to 12,000 here in Albuquerque watched the Rangers beat Arizona today. Again, that final 7-4. We'll come back, tell you a little bit more when we return. In Albuquerque, the place at which Bugs Bunny probably should have made that left-hand turn. Josh Lewin with Tom Grieve. The Rangers, 12 more hits today. They lead the major leagues in spring training batting average, Tom, around 310. So that's a good way to go into the regular season, right?
Well, it is, and they got some key hits in the 8th inning today. Chad Allen got the big hit, the double down the line to drive in a couple. Lance Nix, Adrian Gonzalez, both left-hand hitters, got a couple of big hits off a left-handed pitcher. And I think if you look at the pitching, the bullpen did a great job. 2 shutout innings for Ron Mayhay. Buckvich had a shutout inning. And Matt Riley, I'm sure that was very impressive, and the Rangers were very glad to see that. Came in, pitched a couple of innings, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, and struck out a couple, and got the win in his first Ranger appearance.
And we got to see the Sandia Mountains. We got to check out Isotopes Park. And we do have water balloons if you'd like to drop a few.
I'll pass. My day is done.
All right, Rangers win it. We'll come back, put the final finishing touches on it in just a moment. Rangers win it, and it's kind of a metaphor here. The young kids just can't wait to get out there on the field. The Texas Rangers are indeed a young ball club. They are a building ball club, and they can't wait for the regular season. It is April 5th. In Anaheim. That's where it gets going for real. The home opener, don't forget, April 11th. The Rangers against the Angels in what will be the 34th season of Major League Baseball in Arlington, Texas. The Rangers here in Albuquerque today have beaten back the Arizona Diamondbacks. That final was 7-4. This is Josh Lewin saying good afternoon from the great state of New Mexico. Remember to join us tomorrow at 3 o'clock for the last preseason exhibition game broadcast. The Rangers take on the Giants in San Francisco without the taco. For Tom Grieve, for producer Kurt Dykert, for director Dave Burchett, for associate producers Kelly Donaldson and Eric Josephson, Josh Lewin saying thanks for watching. This has been a presentation of the Texas Rangers and FSN Southwest.